You are watching the Big Dog Postgame Show, brought to you by Viener Forgates and the Big Dog himself, Rick Jacklich, at the Jacklich Law Group. Good afternoon from College Park. The Maryland Terrapins 12, the Richmond Spiders 7, and it wasn't that close. I'm Wayne Viener. That's Tony Wheeler. This is the Big Dog Postgame Show. Mason and Bruce obviously away from the microphone today. Tony, you study this stuff as much as anybody. Your preseason write-up was fantastic. And after all that work, did you see what you expected to see?
Yes and no. I thought the game was going to be a little closer than it was, 7-0 at halftime. But what I was not surprised by at all was the experience. Coach Tillman bringing in a lot of graduate transfers, a lot of older players were the difference today. I think that's what you saw too.
It's what I saw. I saw what looked like a well-oiled machine in mid-season form. I expected another one-goal game against Richmond, just like all the others. And then you see a defense, and it's easy to talk about the offense because that shows up on a stat sheet. But the defense really doesn't. And your Jackson Canfield and Will Schaller and Burlace, and then your D middies, the shutdown D was impressive. And as they say, defense travels. So we'll see next week against Loyola. What popped for you?
What I thought was really fascinating was, Logan McNeely wearing number 1, first goalie to ever wear number 1. The shots he saw early today were the shots he wanted to see. And to your point, the defense was so good. Richmond could not win matchups that entire first half at all. They had 2 shot clock violations in the first quarter alone. They just never got on track. And what was interesting, too, about that defensive depth was at the defensive midfield. Yeah. Eric Kohler had a great game. He blew up entire plays for Richmond. But George Stamos was steady. Jordy Holmes came in, played a ton. The D3 transfer out of Bowdoin, Zach Gorno, he played great today as well. And then the big surprise, Thomas Gravino, who everyone assumed was going to be an offensive player, as a redshirt freshman, came out early as a defensive midfielder and played really well.
Right. We apologize for the camera shaking in anticipation of what Tony's going to say next, but it's actually the wind. So, and then Lake got to play, and everybody keeps bringing up what a great story he is. And if you don't know, he was one of those players who got hit by a ball in the chest and
had to be resuscitated on the field. Yeah.
So he got some. You said 2 freshmen. He played, and who else played on offense?
On offense, Jack Schultz. So a player out of New Jersey, out of northern New Jersey. And if you had told any of us before the game which offensive freshman was going to get on the field first, I don't think any of us would have said Jack Schultz. Mm-hmm. He came out that first second midfield trio that came out on the second midfield run, and he played the whole game. And so he played great. And to your point about Peter Lake. He was playing long stick midfield, which is probably not where he'll end up. But Jack McDonald's out for a couple of games here. So, AJ Larkin's playing LSM. They put Lake at LSM. And I think Jordy Holmes picked up that long pole at a certain point to play LSM. So that experience they're building is going to pay off later. Sure.
And after this break, we'll talk a little bit about what 100 years of Maryland lacrosse means. So after this word from Rick Jacklich, and then, of course, today debuts Viener X, taking over in name and brand from Viener Forgates. So probably for the last time, you'll see the introducing Viener X video, and we'll be back in College Park in a moment.
So Terp fans, if your family's injured in a car crash, you'd be barking mad not to call Rick and the Big Dogs at the Jacklich Law Group at 855-BIG-DOG-1.
But as you know, Coach, it's not the last win, it's the next win that's so important. And that's why we continue to hustle, continue to work so hard for all of our clients to earn that name, the Big Dogs from the small firm. Just like you do. You get your guys hustling all the time.
That's why we love you, Rick.
And most of all,
go Terps!
The opportunity to play for Maryland, to be the best of 100 season, This is Maryland Lacrosse.
A different angle on things here as we return, trying to get out of the wind, cleans up the picture and the audio. Tony, this is the 100th year of Maryland Lacrosse, and I didn't see anything special. There's no t-shirts for sale or anything. For football, there was, and that was in the late, I think that was 1991, possibly. And basketball just a few years ago, and I bought that shirt, so we have that. But Maryland's record over the last 100 years is quite impressive.
893 wins, 290 losses, only 4 ties, 75% win percentage. No losing seasons in that entire span. Now, our friends up at Homewood, if we can call them friends,
Yeah.
they will say that their record against Maryland is better because Maryland was not a varsity sport until 1924, even though they had been playing as a club team. Mm-hmm. But in those 100 years, never a losing season, unprecedented.
It's great, and I hope Maryland actually does something other than make a little video, because when the hat or the shirt comes out, I'll be first in line to buy that. As we go to close here, I don't want to put any pressure, and I maybe shouldn't use these words because I attributed them to you in the press conference, but we were sitting upstairs in the press box and looked at who was scoring and generally the age of the gentlemen who were putting the ball in the back of the net. You said this looks a lot like a few years ago.
A lot of experience. So when you look at the final goal scorers, all of them junior, senior, and graduate student. Except for Sean Creeder, the freshman, sophomore face-off guy. He was the only non-upperclassman scorer. And same thing on the assist. It was a lot of age was getting production. And I think that's something we're used to in seeing Maryland go very far.
Yep. So hopefully that is good tidings for the 100th year of Maryland Lacrosse. We'll be back after Loyola with the postgame show. We'll see if we can get a player or a coach midweek just to update what's going on around the world in lacrosse. So thanks for watching. For Tony Wheeler, for Bruce Posner, Mason Viner, I'm Wayne Viner. We will see you next week.